On this episode, we'll discuss tech and media hacks to help your church do more with less. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm Kendall Connor, and we have a great one for you today, especially for those that are involved in production, church tech, live streaming, creative ministry. If you ever hang out in the tech booth at your church, you're going to love this one. But let's be honest, no matter what area of your ministry focus, you're going to be able to pull some gems from this conversation that are relevant to what you do. Today on the podcast, we have the privilege of having Cody Patterson. If you have not connected with him before, let me tell you all about him. Cody is the production pastor at Life Fellowship Church in McKinney, Texas, where he leads with a true passion for equipping the saints. He was formerly the VP of Marketing at MxU. That's the largest church worship and production training organization. And he spent time as the marketing director at Renewed Vision. Those are the makers of Pro Presenter, popular presentation software for churches. Cody, he just brings a deep expertise when it comes to things like worship and tech and creative strategy. He began his ministry journey as a worship pastor, so he has a heart for worship as well. And now he spends a lot of his time consulting with church leaders, especially in a small to mid-sized church context. He loves to help them thrive through practical, thoughtful solutions. And I love that about him. He's got a great heart for the church. Today, we're going to be talking all about kind of those tech and media hacks that your church can use to do more with less. Before we jump in, I just want to encourage all of our listeners to hit that follow button wherever you're enjoying our show. We just want to make sure that you stay in the loop with everything that we do, all these conversations and resources that we're releasing. And that is the best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So without further ado, let's welcome Cody Patterson. Hey there, Cody. How are you?
Good, Kendall. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man, I'm excited for this conversation today. I really appreciate you hopping on and joining us.
Of course. Yeah, I'm excited too. It's going to be good.
You know, I'm like at heart. I think when I first got into the church and started serving and volunteering, it was in church media and tech, and so I've been a fan of this topic for a long time.
Yeah, I've seen you around. It's been good.
Yeah, no doubt. If anyone is watching today or listening in, and they're definitely going to recognize you as a familiar face because you've been in this space for a long time.
I wouldn't say I'm that old, but yeah, I've been in this space for a while because I kind of started off young in this space. But yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, we read the public bio. Would you tell us a little bit beyond that public bio? We always ask this of all our guests. What's something that only your family and friends would know about you?
I don't know if I should go like straight off the bat with this, but actually in 2015, I was working at a church and I was single at the time, so I had some roommates. But my friend actually accidentally shot me in the chest
Oh,
with a gun.
wow. Man, right out of the gate. I'm not going to lie. You're surprising me a little bit with this.
Yeah. Most people
Wow.
online don't know this.
Yeah. Wow. Well, man, I'm so glad that you survived this
Me too.
crazy experience and are here to tell the tale today, right?
Yeah. I think one of the cool things about that story is actually like the testimony of I
Wow.
was in the hospital for 25 days total.
Oh my
And
goodness.
through that time, the doctors didn't know why my body wasn't healing. And I never like doubted God, but I did doubt my future, like what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was a worship leader, I was singing, my lung was collapsed inside my body, it wasn't healing. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? But when the doctors figured out what it was, they consulted with people across the country. My doctor was a Christian. They were able to go inside me, figure it out. And a week after I got out of the hospital, I was back on stage singing again. And so
Wow.
it was just a super, I mean, I would never wish that on anyone. But like I came out on top of it, able to like share like how God was able to heal me and even take care of my soul through the process.
Man, we didn't know we were going to start out with testimony time, but I'm not going to lie, that's a testimony, man. Like that's powerful. Wow. Yeah, I feel like we've learned a lot right out of the gate, but let's shift to church tech, right?
Yeah.
Now that we now that we got through our testimony. Wow, Cody. Let's talk church tech. You,
Yep.
man, everyone would say that you're a church tech expert. I have no doubt about this because you've been in this space and you brought so much to the community. You do so much. I'd love to just hear about some of that story, some of that experience. You've been involved in production, worship, as you just mentioned, and now you're consulting and helping people. You're helping folks out on social media. You're often investing in these ministry leaders. What would you say is kind of that deeper purpose that's driven this for you?
I think a lot of it is just the fact that I was invested in the past myself. And so it's easy to want to to continue to push forward that because
Yeah.
it was done for me. And so
Right.
like why would I not help others also? And so when I was in junior high, I was invested in heavily like in the worship area. But then I started learning production and things like that. And I had worship leaders at our church who would come alongside me and like help me to grow in my leadership, in my talent, but also just in my spiritual walk with God. And so through all of that, I I've gotten a passion for even like students. Like I love youth group. I love pouring into our youth group at our church.
Yeah.
I'm not like a student leader, but on the production side,
Yeah.
we have 20 people on our team within student ministry. And for a
Amazing.
church of our size, we're not even like the largest church in the world, but like for a church of our size, it's a pretty big production team. And I think part of that is because I just care so deeply about investing in them. I care so deeply investing in people and helping them
Yes.
grow. Because I know if I don't do it for them, who's going to? Like someone's got to do it. And I wouldn't be here today if someone didn't do it for me.
I think every person who's serving in a church, number one, probably has that story of someone who believed in them, who invested in them, right, in their journey. And I can speak to that so much in my own journey in church media, church tech, and all these different areas. And so it makes a big difference. It's a good reminder to every person, every church leader who's out there listening today that pouring into those people. Sometimes you may feel tired. Sometimes you may feel like, am what I do is what I'm doing really making a difference? And I would just remind you today that it does. It makes a huge difference because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for someone investing. Cody wouldn't. And I think if you're listening today, I think if you'd be honest, you'd say the same about your situation. So
Yeah.
keep doing that.
And then I would say on top of that, there's this other side of things where it's like, even in the church world, I'm just thinking through like when I started at my church, we didn't have a whole lot of people serving on our team.
Mm,
Um, and now we have a lot more because we've been so intentional about like, let's create a community together and let's grow together and let's not just be button pushers. And especially in the tech world, it can be easy to come in and just be like, I'm the person who clicks the slide.
yes.
Um, and then I go
Yeah.
home. And so my heart has always been like, let's create a community. Let's build relationships together. Let's pour into each other.
Yes.
And I just know that I can't do everything myself. So if I have 10 volunteers, and we have 4 services and we have 10 positions that need filled every single week, that means there's 10 people every single service, every single week doing the same thing. And that's not sustainable long term. And so
Right.
like it is my job also like to invest in growing the team and making sure that people are being poured into so that they can then invest into other people. And so
Yes.
like I feel like it's just so important just looking into like, yes, I do this for church leaders as well. But even within your own church, it's just so important to look who are the people I can invest in, and then who will they end up investing in the future? Because it's a multiplication. It just keeps going. It's a snowball that happens.
It is. It is.
And if we all relied on ourselves the whole time, we would be burnt out. We'd be burning our volunteers out, and it's not healthy.
I love what you've shared here because it's a good reminder. And I'm just thinking, I feel like I've seen two extremes in church tech, church ministry, or production tech, media, whatever you want to call it at your specific church. I've seen the extreme of there's one guy doing it all, right? And I've been that person before, right? I've been that one that wanted to do everything, and like you said, I wanted to be the one to click the slides, and I wanted to run sound, or I wanted to do all of these different things, or do everything, right? And then I feel like there's the opposite side of that where you can have a large team because you're blessed with a large church and that kind of thing. But there's also danger in that if you don't, as you've said, invest in new people, if you're not training them, if you're not letting them really get some skin in the game as well, that also can be troubling. So no matter what, it really pays off to bring other people along. I had a pastor when I was growing up. He would say, "Kendall, don't hog all the ministry for
Mm,
yourself." And I was like, man, that makes just so much sense because it is so rewarding to be able to do something for God, right? You want to share that experience with other
right.
people. So no matter if you have a small church or a large church, I feel like um, that's a good reminder for us today.
Yeah. And I think it all stems from like the verse in scripture that talks about raising up saints for ministry. Like
Yes.
that's
Yep.
that's what we're called to do.
Absolutely. Well, we talk about churches of different sizes. I know that you're especially passionate about helping churches that are maybe smaller or maybe they have less, but you want to help them do more with less. Tell us a little bit about that. Where's that passion come from?
Yeah. I think part of the passion comes from the fact that like larger churches already have people who know what they're doing. Uh, so I'm not passionate about necessarily pouring into people who know what they're doing. And they probably know more than I do anyway. So like, yeah,
Sure.
but I grew up in a large multi-site church. That's where I learned a lot of things. But my first job was at a 90-person church. And so my experience, like I've been all across the board.
Right.
And I've been a part of a lot of church plants too. I have been the like, one of the first staff members at a church plant to help go and plant the church and
Yes.
not have much of a salary, but like it was like fulfilling because of what it was. And so I have that like heart for these ministries that are smaller because I know what it takes. I know the struggles that come with it.
Yes.
And I know it's hard when you're alone doing all
Yes.
this. Like you said, like sometimes you have to do it out of necessity. You're the one person,
Yes.
not just by choice, but necessity. And so I know what it takes to like say, hey, like this is hard. Um, but it does get better, and let's help equip you to make it better currently as much as we can. And then as you continue to grow, continue to provide resources, things will come together. It'll get better.
I love that. And it is true. I mean, you know, every church context is going to be different, right? You can have churches literally across the street from one another, right? And they're going to be different. They're going to have different dynamics and different people and things like that. And so, for those times when you are operating with less, maybe you don't have a lot of people, maybe you don't even have a lot of resources. Any encouragement that you would give just right out of the gate to those that are trying to do more with less in this season?
Yeah, I would say a lot of this comes down to your leadership, but don't just assume that your leadership wants perfection. A lot of times we put this like mantle of perfection on ourselves,
Right.
and that's dangerous because especially with a small church, you're not going to meet the standard of the 30,000 person church.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, don't make that your standard. I think it's dangerous to say, "Hey, I'm going to make my standard unattainable.
Mm,
Let's make our standard attainable." And so I know that leadership can affect this. I know the person above you may drive some of that,
sure.
and sometimes that takes like just getting outside your comfort zone and having real conversations with them to say like to explain to them what is reasonable and what's not reasonable about being accomplished. But if you're a church plant and you're growing and right now you're at 250 people, um, there's no expectation that should be put on you that says, hey, you need to perform at the level of a 2,000 person church, which has 3 people on their production staff full time. So, like, just know that sometimes there's a mantle that we'll put on ourselves of expectation that our leadership may not even be driving. And really do like a soul search. Am I the one making this expectation, or is this my
Wow.
leadership putting this expectation on me?
That's a good word because, as you mentioned, sometimes that does come from leadership, but then also I think it comes from Instagram, TikTok culture, right? Like we
Mhm.
see these amazing tech setups that, at different churches, and we all have our favorite worship teams and things like that we look to, and we think that we want to be our own version of that, right? Like we want to aspire for that greatness. But I think that's a good check today to say like, okay, like is we want to accomplish what we can in this season, right, at our church
Yeah.
with our people, and it's not always going to look the exact same, while still keeping the standard of excellence, right? For striving to do the best where we are,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. And I think there's levels of like as a church, you may not be able to have, 50 lights on your stage that are all programmed
Hmm.
and going crazy, as well as a 4K live stream with 6 cameras being switched and roaming cameras. Like, there's steps. You don't have to start at that
Yes.
level. It's okay.
Yes.
Get the one camera that's high quality and has a great lens and looks good. Make that be your priority. Get a few lights that just create an atmosphere, and you can set them, and you don't have to spend hours programming, wasting your time for the
Yes.
one service you have on a Sunday morning. Um, I just find what those levels are that you can reach, and then set a
Yes.
standard that's high for like doing it well. Um,
Yes.
I I'm a big proponent of like let's spend money on the things that create quality, not just the
Mm.
things that are gimmicky. I think a lot of times churches they're like, oh, that looks really cool. And so like let's just spend a bunch of money to find all the cool things, but it might not fit your context. It may not make sense for you.
Right.
And then it ends up being a waste of money, especially at the
Mm.
size that you are, depending on what size you are. So
That's a good word for today. Uh, okay, so tech and media. So whether we're talking about your screens, your audio, lighting, video, streaming, all of these different areas, we know that they can be intimidating at times, and especially for churches that are under resourced or don't have a lot of resources. What are some of the pain points that you see on a regular basis, and how would you recommend for churches to overcome them?
um, I think pain points really are just that desire to have the most expensive thing. And I think part of the thing is we'll see a church and they'll be using like in production terms and lighting, there's the JDC one, which is just a popular light, and it's a blinder in the middle, and then it has like two wash elements on each side.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's like a rectangle light that you see at churches. Like that's a $6,000 light. Not every church, arguably, even the largest churches don't need to spend that much money on the light. But
right, right.
um, i- just because a church has a cool thing doesn't mean you have to have it. But if you do feel like you have to have it, maybe there's an alternative that's cheaper.
Mm,
Um, at our church, we have the same exact looking fixture. No one would know the difference. But it was $800, and it's the 80-day Jolt, which is just like a compare like a clone essentially, but it's from a big name brand. It's not a small name brand. And so
yeah.
like it is good quality. Or you can go on Amazon and get one for $200 from a China company. But like, it's just at that point
Right.
you're putting a bet on it. But what I'm saying is like there are levels again to being able to attain some of the things that the bigger churches that we see online on Instagram, on YouTube are doing, maybe with different products that are similar or similar quality, that just don't have the name. I think that's a big
But
thing. Is like so often
oh, yeah.
we're shooting for the name, like the like, oh, they have
Yes.
this cool thing. I need that cool thing. But maybe
Yes.
there's something similar you could do that's a lot cheaper.
I love that you bring this up because for everyone who's listening, don't feel like you gotta press rewind. I'm gonna link all of those models and everything that Cody just said in the show notes so that you can reference them. But what we'll do, is you can see those and kinda compare, because I think this principle applies to every single area of your tech ministry, of your production ministry, because there's going to always be the thing that everyone is talking about. That's just the nature of the space, right? Like,
Hmm.
folks are going to be talking about the latest and greatest. It's in one season it's going to be a soundboard, and another season it's going to be a new computer, and another season it'll be a light, as you mentioned. All of these different things. I can remember when when a new camera came out recently, and there were guys in our tech booth. They were like, "Oh man, we've got to get this camera. We've got to get this camera." And I'm looking at the price tag. And I'm thinking, guys, we may never get that camera.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's I love that you said that, there are a lot of times alternatives that can give you the same experience, because at the end of the day, it's not about that name. It is about, doing your best to create a great experience and kind of emulate some of the things you can do. And there's going to be some people listening to this, and they're going to think that lighting isn't important at all. And so, like, the idea of spending any of those amounts of money that you mentioned, they're going to have a hard time justifying that, when you're going to have other people who are like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about." Here's where I would say you meet in the middle, is that you want to craft a great experience, right? But whatever level that you can operate on that season, that's being a good steward of what God's given you, right? You want to lean
right.
into that, because the other option is, I think about in our own church plant. I've been in a church plant for 10 plus years. I can't tell you how many times we figured out how to do a DIY version of a look that we loved. And we were able to get people involved and things like that. And man, it made a huge difference. We were able to create something that had our blood, sweat, and tears in it, and it looked great. And of course, it didn't have all of the features and everything that some of the higher end things did, but it was the right move in that season. Have you seen that
Yeah.
before, Cody?
Yeah, I have seen that before. And I think also what I've seen is that because of a money limitation,
Hmm.
it can be hard for a small to medium-sized church to think in a creative lens
Hmm.
oftentimes because they see what other churches are doing and they just want to emulate. And so I would also proposition that as churches, like we should be trying to create. We should be trying to be creative as ourselves. And
Yeah.
I know that can be hard because not everybody is like some people are more techy, some people are more creative. But you can find someone around you that's creative if you're not creative.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but I would say like one thing that we did as a church, we were trying to you said like DIY. I don't even know if there's like a more official way to do this, but we were trying to do something that was a little bit different. And this was back in 2020 before like cinematic was like the trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so we started creating in Pro Presenter these lyric bars, like one on the bottom, one on the top, that looked like kind of a crop. It's cropping in the
Yes.
screen.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more common now. Like I think Red Rocks Church does this. Lots of churches do this.
Yeah.
At the time, though, it was a unique thing. And so in Pro Presenter, we actually created it where like service would start and they would be in because we cut from the video to these cinematic
Yeah.
bars with our lyrics on top. And then when the host would come up after worship, they would slide out. So I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever seen like those movies, like
yeah.
or even The Mandalorian, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
There was this scene where it was like all cropped in, and then the dragon came out of this mountain thing, and then those bars moved out, and it looked
Yeah.
so cool because it was like
Yes.
a drawing your attention and changing the whole vision of it. And so for worship, it makes sense to have cinematic bars. You're cutting in. It's like, it's just got a cool experience. But then like for hosting and speaking, it didn't make sense. So in my mind, I was like, how can we do that without just cutting them off the screen? And so we had them move out like that. And I was like, this is just cool. As they're walking up, it's a cool thing. But that was free. We did it inside of ProPresenter.
Yes.
We figured out how to do this. I mean, coming up with like concepts like this, like just creating your own vision for like what your space looks like within your ministry context. Not everyone should have cinematic experiences. But like what at your church makes sense creatively to be cool and different and just have fun. Like it's okay to have fun.
Yes. You brought up so much good stuff here. And what I love that you mentioned is that that idea was practically free, right? Like it was using the tools that your church had in that season, but you were creative with it. And so I would say for all of our listeners today, like what can you do creative with the tools that you have right now? Right? Because a lot of times we can get caught up in what's next, what things we'd like to have. But man, there are things that you can do today for nothing that will cost you nothing or maybe cost you a small amount that people would notice. People would see that. They would be inspired by it. And ultimately, everything that we do, we're trying to point people to Jesus with it. And so, like, what can you use that's in your house right now? And just as Cody said, I mean, like, man, it's powerful. You can use that creativity, and there may be somebody in your church that you can get their creativity involved with it as
Yep.
well.
Yep. Absolutely.
We talk about all these different churches. They're trying to, make things work with what they have. We want to create high quality experiences, but at the same time, we don't want to overwork our volunteers, overwork our teams. Any recommendations, any tips you can give for helping things to operate, sustainably, efficiently?
Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing, what I'm going to mention a little bit here is just automation and how you can do some things to relieve the stress of volunteers. But I think the first element is always like we need to raise more volunteers. Like we need
Mhm.
to find more people to join our teams and empower them. Because I do feel like burnout and feeling like I'm serving too often or feeling like all these things comes from sometimes because there's not enough of them, enough people to serve, but then also feeling like they have no say, no kind of I don't want to say authority, but like they're not really involved. They're just the
Yes.
button pusher, like we talked
Mm.
about earlier. And so when you start giving people the opportunities to like asking their opinion, asking them, even asking them to like do something more than you would actually normally ask them to, instead of just saying, hey, come in on Sunday morning and click the slides, maybe you find someone who has more time and expresses a little bit more interest and actually teach them how to make the message notes and
Right.
ask if that's something they would take ownership of. Because when people start to take ownership of things, they get excited. They're no longer in this burnout mentality of like, I'm just coming, I'm just pressing a button. But now it's like, this is my thing. I get excited about it. I want to go do
Yes.
this. So I think first off, it's like, let's find more volunteers. Let's pour into more people. Let's
Right.
empower them. Because that helps a lot. Because then you don't have as many people that are just doing the same thing over and over in order.
Yes.
On the flip side, I think there's ways that we can make it so that when a volunteer does come in, for those who don't necessarily want to put in all that effort, they do just want to show up. Sometimes it can be stressful if you're putting a lot on that person. And so I think there's ways that we can automate our systems, and I'm including Pro Presenter, even video switching and lighting. There's things you can do within all of those realms
Right.
to eliminate necessarily like the volunteer coming in and having to do a lot of work on those things.
Yes.
So I almost creating like two different spaces. I'm saying like find the people that will do more,
Yes.
empower them to do more. And then for those who really don't want to do more, it's okay. But like make sure they know it's okay.
Yes.
And then empower them in a way that's making it so that they can serve without feeling the anxiety and stress of the moment. Because when you're behind the scenes and you're clicking the slides and you mess up, everyone sees it, right?
Yes.
And so I think automating some systems so that they have a little bit less to do or think about or stress about is very helpful for those people.
And I've seen you have some videos on this, right? You share some of these on your social accounts, and I've seen those because you can do things as simple, I think, of things we've done in our own church, right? In Pro Presenter, you can have you click one thing and multiple steps happen with that, right? The same thing we use. We have it on our video switcher. We have the Black Magic Design switcher, and there's macros built in. All right, or you can add your own macros so that the same thing. So you can click one thing, right, and multiple actions will happen, and that can be huge because you can set one for the beginning of your service, right? Okay, every week we do these same 10 steps when service starts, where you can plug everything into one button, right? Is this kind of the idea of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Just for an example, we used to have our Pro Presenter operator. They would have to click through macros and props and tons of different things.
Yes.
But now it's like set up where you click one slide and that slide has the
Yes.
macros and the props inside them. And that just took setup on our side to figure out what slides do we want to do what thing. And so
Yes.
like for example, the beginning of the message, they'll click the first slide. That first slide will bring our message lights up in our room because before our message, we pretty much always have a video playing. And so our lights are down. And so right when that first slide gets clicked, it's putting the lights up in the room. And so we don't have to have a lighting operator who's manning transitions, which I think is kind of boring.
Yes.
And so we do have a lighting operator, but they're running our worship cues.
Right.
And so like for them, that's the more fun part. And so I want to empower them to have fun, not to necessarily be bored just doing transition lightings. And so our Pro Presenter operator is clicking the slide, and when they click that slide, which they're always going to click because we have to have it clicked anyways,
Yes.
that's triggering our lights. It's going to change like what's showing on our stage screen in the back for our pastor. And I mean, all of these things where like you just automate a system to control another system can be helpful.
Yes.
There's even been times where we've had a slide you click and it's changed our camera input on our video switcher, and so it's like just to be helpful for whatever moment that
Yes.
was. Maybe we were doing something special and we didn't, and it was a lot of things to think through for a video director. Like we need this keyer on, we need this keyer off, we need this ME on this input. Like it's a lot to think through if you have multiple inputs and outputs going on. And so we've created sometimes like macros. But instead of just doing the macro on the board, we're having you click the slide in Pro Presenter for the video, and it triggers all of that for them. So it's those simple things where it's like it's more complex for us because we have to program it and get it ready, right? But in the end, it makes it easier for that volunteer who's running that thing because they're not thinking through. I have to do this, and then if they mess up that thing, it becomes a big deal.
I love these ideas, and I know that our listeners are going to be wondering, like, where can they learn more about that? Any recommendations? Any like YouTube channels or any of that? What should they look up if they want to hear more about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, Ryland Russell has a lot of videos on YouTube. I have a lot of videos on Instagram and TikTok. So mine are more like short form, like here's a
Yeah.
quick here's a quick thing to learn and like go do it. But Rylan Russell does a little bit more in-depth tutorials on YouTube.
Yes.
Um, Churchfront has some older videos that they've done as well. And then those are kind of like the automation things that I would say, like look
Sure.
at those YouTube channels and my Instagram and TikTok for that sort of thing.
I love that. Yeah, and for all my production folks, you may know Stream Deck. I think about it, all the automation that I've
Yeah.
been able to use for us at our church with that. I mean, like, start Googling, man. Start looking this stuff up on YouTube because there's a lot of. I mean, to me, it's a lot of fun, right? The automation. I love that side,
Yeah.
and it to me it inspires people to want to get involved because they see just how cool it is, right? Like they see the technology that's involved, and that just it gets me excited. It gets I feel like it gets new people excited as well.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe there's church leaders who are listening to this. What I would say is you have either a staff member or you have a volunteer who's leading your tech
Yeah,
ministry.
yeah,
And that person has to put in a lot of work too. And
yes.
so for me, like I'm excited about some automations that we've done here at our church so that I don't have to show up an hour early to before like the band comes
Wow,
in. I show up
wow,
when the band comes in. So in our Stream Deck, you can have calendar triggers, so like day and time triggers. And so
wow,
those can trigger specific things. So we have our lighting hooked up to that. We have our screens hooked up to that. And the nice thing
wow.
about like Stream Deck and the integrations they have is you can just add the plugins. So like we have Sony TVs. So you just add the Sony TV and then you
Yeah,
drag in on and it turns it on. It really
yeah,
is simple once you use it. At first, I
yeah.
know like any new technology you have to learn, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's not a complicated one. And so it's really nice that I have buttons I can click to do these things on our Stream Deck, but we also have these time of day triggers. So at 6:30 in the morning, it's playing our Spotify, it's turning on our TVs in our lobby, it's turning on the
Wow.
projectors in our auditorium. Um, it's making sure the light scene in light key, which is what we use for our lighting,
Yeah.
is selected. And so I walk in at 6:30 and all of this is on. I don't have to go around turning each TV
Yeah.
on with a remote. I don't
Love
have to
that.
go like all that stuff takes time and it's wasting your person's time, like your tech director, your volunteer, whoever's leading that area, it's wasting their time.
Wow.
They could be spending that time with people ministering during the week instead of an extra hour on Sunday mornings, waking up early, being here before
Amazing.
everyone.
Man, I could geek out about this stuff all day long. Like, I mean, I love this stuff. I want to talk a little bit about team culture and just the different things that you know we want our volunteers and want our staffs. We want them to enjoy being involved with this. Do you feel like that's something that's kind of neglected? Maybe, and we get too focused on the tech sometimes or the outcome. Like what's your opinion on that?
I think it's easy. I think a lot of churches neglect it, but I think it's easier to neglect in the small church. And the reason I say that is because you're already trying to do so much and it's just you usually. So it's very hard to be like, I need to program the lighting. I need to set pro presenter for the week. Or if we have
Mm,
youth group and young adults and all these other services that I have to do as well, being at all these services, like you end up losing your time for people.
yeah.
But the whole purpose behind why we're here is people. And so I'm just saying right now, like, I get it. It's hard. And
Yes.
I've been there and I've struggled with it. Like now I have more time just because I'm in a larger church and I have more a team around me and I've built that team to make it possible to have that time. Um, but I have been where other people have been where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I have time to go. And I don't necessarily even have the not mental capacity, but like the relational like desire right now because I've just wasted so much of my brain on other things. And so I get that. What I would just say is people are so important. And if we're not caring about their health, um, why would they care about the health of our ministry? Like, why would they be
Yeah.
investing back in something when we're not investing in them?
Yes.
And I think it's hard because I know that there are also a lot of people who lead tech ministries that aren't people focused. Like,
Mm,
just by nature, you might be an introvert, you might not be super relational, and that's okay.
right.
But knowing that what we're doing is so important to the kingdom work, we need to care about the people that are entrusted to us. We
Yes.
need to care about their health, their spiritual health. How are they growing? And so it's important to go do one-on-ones every once in a while. Maybe you set one time a week where you're like, I'm just gonna go have lunch with one of my volunteers. Um, and you pray for them, you ask them how they're doing, you give them some feedback too. Um, you ask them to give you feedback. That's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
um, but like set some time aside, make it a priority because if you don't make it a priority, it starts to go by the wayside.
I love that. So much. I mean, so much good stuff you said there. And it just to say it in simplest terms, I feel like we have to remind ourselves that that the people come before the production, and
Mm.
that's like something. Yes, don't hear what I'm not saying. The production is important, right? Like doing the work is important, but we just have to remember the people that are behind it, the people that we're serving, and it makes a big difference when you remember that. What encouragement could you give us today? I know that there's going to be someone on the other side of this, Cody, that's feeling stuck. They maybe their tech is outdated, and they just feel like they're can't make any progress in what they're doing. Maybe they don't have people. Maybe they don't have budget. Whatever it may be. If they're feeling stuck today, what first step could they take to kind of move forward with confidence in this season?
Yeah, I would say if you feel like you're stuck in all of those areas, you got to pick one to try and move forward with.
That's
Because if
good
you try to
wisdom.
tackle everything at once, that's very difficult. Um, let's say that you were stuck with feeling like you have outdated equipment. Um, maybe it's time to like ask around other churches because there are churches that are willing to invest in
Yes.
other churches. Maybe you reach out to some of the other larger churches in your community and you start to build a relationship with the tech director and not just to reach out and be like, hey, I need things,
Right.
like build a relationship with people.
Yes.
Because I think out of relationship comes a lot of like the extra.
Yes.
And so we're in our community, we have a Facebook group for North Texas production tech. I don't know what it's called, something along those lines. And
Yeah.
so we have like 150 people in that group. And some of those are volunteers, some of those are staff members, some of those
Yes.
are the main leaders, some of them are just people that just help in production at their churches.
Yes.
Um, but we also do like semi quarterly kind of gatherings where like we go to a church, we hang out, we see their setup, we have lunch, that sort of thing. It can be valuable to get yourself into a community because when you
Yes.
feel like you have all this stuff against you, you don't have a great budget. I feel like every church has that problem. So you don't have the newest gear, you have really old gear. Maybe you don't have enough volunteers. Like tackling those problems is a lot easier when you have a community of people who can come alongside you and give you advice and support. And
Yes.
sometimes you just need that like there's a lot of guys that lead production, right?
Yes.
Sometimes guys need more emotional support than they think they do.
Mm.
Um, so it's okay to feel like you don't have control of everything and that there are needs that you have. But
Yes.
find other people to come alongside you and support you and help you. Um, I can't promise you that your pastor's going to give you $1 million budget, but what we can do is make incremental steps.
Yes.
And I think first it starts with like just the heart health and the personal
Mm.
health. And then from there, people can come alongside you, give you advice as to how to approach your pastor about a conversation,
Yes.
how to approach other people to get them a part of your team. I think when you start to reach into that community, there's more wisdom that you can get from a bigger community.
I love that. Such great wisdom in that. Hey, this is a good segue because a question that we always ask all of our guests when they come on is about healthy churches. On a big theme for our podcast is healthy churches and healthy leaders. In your opinion, what would you say is one component of a healthy church?
One.
Kind of a loaded question, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah. Um, I think healthy leadership cares. And so, yeah, we could say that healthy leadership follows the Bible. We could say that healthy leadership invests their own time back. Like, I think just caring in general is saying, like, I care about people, I care about theology, I care about like accuracy of scripture, I care about doing things well.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to like actually putting an effort, but mentally and emotionally, like caring about the thing you're doing.
Yes.
And so I think if everyone cared, and I don't just mean like in a fluffy, like it gets me
Sure.
excited way. I
Right.
mean, like, this is where my heart is. Um, I think that goes a long way towards creating a culture where, like, people are excited because it's, like, they know that you're invested. They know that leadership is invested. They know this isn't just a job for someone, the lead pastor. They know that, like, they actually care about you. When someone comes like, if a production director has a volunteer who's in the hospital, if that production director goes to the hospital, that says a lot. Um, I think it's very easy for the non-people tech people to be like, "Oh, that's the spiritual leader of my church's job." But when we're saying, "Hey, we care about you," that speaks a lot into the health of the people that are attending the church and volunteering.
I love that because it can all, I know I've said this on the podcast before, it can all that responsibility can't weigh on just the lead pastor, right? Like if you're working side by side, folks in your tech booth, like man, you've it's on all of us, right? Carry some of that shared weight because we got to be looking out for them. We got to be looking for out for the people that we're serving with. If you're leading over folks, then yeah, you got to show that care. So
Yeah.
I love that. That sounds like a healthy church to me. So that's a great answer. Well, we like to wrap things up with a final five, kind of a rapid fire round.
Okay.
Cody, are you up for it?
Hopefully.
All right, all right. All right. So the first question is what's one book that you would recommend, maybe on this subject or something similar?
Ooh, uh, I would say, um, this was it was I'm not my answer wasn't very rapid, I'm sorry. So there's, author named John Mark Comer, and he has a book on, I don't really know what the name of it is right now, but, like, the spiritual practices that Jesus followed,
Is it
and how
Following the Way? Is that it?
yes, following the way, or
Yeah, 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 yeah,
something
yeah.
along those words, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Um, I think so often we, forget to actually follow the ways of Jesus, and we just
Mm,
get caught in this Western Christianity. And so it's like fasting, praying, being a part of spiritual community, giving, like all these things that's like they get lost by the wayside. So yeah,
great answer. What is the last thing that you listened to on Spotify or Apple Music?
uh, The Wonderful Blood by Tiffany Hudson.
I haven't heard that one. I got to check that out.
Oh yeah.
All right. All right. I'm going to add it to my list. What is your favorite piece of technology or software these days?
uh, Definitely Companion and Stream Deck. The combination of
Nice.
those two.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a big difference. Love that. All right. Quote or maybe some advice that has stuck with you over the years.
I don't have a quote, but just don't take yourself seriously. we
Why
take
do you
it
say that?
ourselves we take ourselves too seriously, and then it's just everything's serious. Like, the church is supposed to be full of joy. Like, let's have
Yeah.
fun.
Right. I love that. No, that's solid advice. All right. What is one thing that you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders today?
You're not alone. There are other people
Mm,
that can come alongside you. You just got to find that community. There
yeah.
are Facebook groups. There are individuals you can reach out to. Most mentors will not ask you to be their mentee.
Mm. Yeah,
Find a mentor.
you gotta seek that out. Mm.
Yeah.
That's good wisdom. Cody, you brought so many gems today to this conversation. I mean, I'm taking notes over here myself. This has been a great conversation. I know people are going to want to follow you. They're going to want to hear more. Where's the best place for them to find more, to hear more from you?
Yeah, I was honestly Instagram, TikTok are both big. Instagram is definitely like the place where it's like I'm posting personal stuff and also church tech tips, production tips, worship tips. So if you're on Instagram, that's the best place to find me. But yeah,
Well, again, Cody, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an absolute joy to be able to talk through a subject that I love so much with you. And I would just encourage all of our listeners today at home, if you are leading tech or media in your ministry, I just want you to know that you are not alone. Whether your team is big or small, I would just encourage you keep showing up, keep innovating. Try some of these tips that we've talked through today and keep perfecting your craft. The work that you're doing behind the scenes it is really making a difference, even on those days when you don't feel like it. Remember that excellence is not about perfection. It's about being faithful to what God's called you to do and just do the best you can with what you have. And I just want you to remember to keep going, that you've got this and you're making a real difference. All of our listeners today, be sure to check out all the resources that we're going to list in our show notes because we'll link up all those things that we've talked through today. And hey, if this episode has encouraged you, would you consider sharing it with a friend in ministry? Or even leaving a review. We love reading those. Just hear how this has helped you. We want to just get this in the ears of as many church leaders as we can so that we can equip you and to encourage you. And so that helps with that tremendously. Again, hit that follow button if you have not already. And until next time, keep leading well. And we'll see you right back here next week on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.